Kindness is powerful, but it becomes destructive the moment it pulls you away from the purpose God placed in your heart. There is a kind of kindness that looks holy on the outside, but quietly drains you on the inside. You start giving so much of yourself to others that you forget who you are, what you're called to do, and what God asked you to focus on. You wake up tired, not because you're working too hard, but because you're carrying weights that were never meant to be yours. You say yes to every request, every need, every crisis, and slowly your own mission becomes blurry. Kindness you thought was helping others starts to suffocate the purpose God gave you. And the hard truth is this: you can't save everyone, and you're not meant to. When your kindness becomes your distraction, it's no longer kindness. It's a detour from destiny. There are moments when your heart wants to help, but your spirit whispers that this is not your assignment. Yet you keep pushing yourself, believing that being kind means being available at all times for anyone who calls. But that's not wisdom, that's not obedience, that's emotional exhaustion dressed up as compassion. You start carrying burdens that don't belong to you. You start solving problems that others were meant to learn from. You start giving answers to people who don't want change. They just want attention. And the more you give, the more you lose the fire God placed in you. It hurts even more because you genuinely care. You want to lift people, encourage them, guide them. But when your kindness is fueling everyone else's growth while your own life stands still, something is wrong. Purpose demands focus. Destiny demands discipline. You cannot pour into everyone and expect your own cup to stay full. Every moment you spend fixing what others refuse to fix is a moment stolen from the work God has trusted you with. And the longer you live like that, the more you realize that kindness without boundaries is not love. It's sacrifice without reward. There comes a day when you must recognize that being stretched thin is not spiritual. Being drained is not noble. Being available for everyone means you are no longer available for the calling God placed over your life. And until you reclaim your time, your energy, and your purpose, your kindness will continue to pull you in every direction except the one God chose for you. There is a kindness that comes from a pure heart, and then there is a kindness that grows from fear. Fear of disappointing people, fear of looking selfish, fear of being rejected if you finally say no. Many people walk through life with a gentle smile but a trembling spirit, constantly worried about who might be hurt if they stop giving so much. But the truth is, when your kindness is rooted in fear instead of love, it begins to break you instead of build others. You become trapped in a cycle of pleasing everyone while silently losing yourself. You smile, but the smile feels heavy. You help, but the help feels forced. And deep inside, you know you're giving from a place that isn't healthy. You're not being kind because you want to. You're being kind because you're afraid of what will happen if you stop. Fear-driven kindness is dangerous because it slowly teaches people that you have no limits. They start expecting more, asking for more, taking more. And you, wanting to keep the peace, keep saying yes even when your spirit is crying for rest. Before long, people aren't grateful anymore. They're entitled. They don't see your sacrifice as love. They see it as your duty. What used to be kindness becomes obligation. What used to be generosity becomes weakness in their eyes, and you find yourself surrounded not by people you're helping, but by people who are draining you dry. The worst part is that fear convinces you that if you finally set boundaries, you will lose people. But the truth is, anyone you lose by standing up for yourself was never truly with you. Real love doesn't demand that you destroy yourself. Real respect doesn't require your exhaustion. When kindness becomes a mask you wear to avoid conflict, you are not living in truth. You are living in survival mode. And God never called you to survive. He called you to live with purpose, strength, and freedom. You must learn to recognize the difference between love, led kindness, and fear, led kindness. One empowers your spirit, the other suffocates it. One helps you grow, the other keeps you small. You cannot fulfill your calling while being controlled by the expectations of others. You cannot walk the path God laid for you if you're constantly trying to keep everyone else comfortable. At some point, you must choose courage over fear, truth over approval, and purpose over pleasing. Only then will your kindness become something that heals instead of something that hurts you. There comes a point when kindness stops being a blessing and starts becoming a burden. That happens when you give so much of yourself that you begin to disappear in the process. People who live with a soft heart often struggle to admit when they are tired, overwhelmed, or running on empty. They keep showing up, keep giving, keep supporting, hoping their efforts will finally be appreciated or reciprocated. But not everyone sees your kindness the way you intend it. Some see it as an open door. Some see it as unlimited access. Some see it as a weakness they can exploit. And without realizing it, you find yourself doing things not because they're right, but because you don't want to be seen as rude, difficult, or unkind. The danger is that when you constantly give without balance, you start to lose your sense of self. You forget your own needs, your own dreams, your own voice. You push your own pain to the background because you're too busy soothing everyone else's emotions. You convince yourself that being strong means never saying no, but that's not strength, that's self-neglect. It's a slow erosion of your identity where the person you were created to be gets buried under all the expectations placed on you. You try to hold everything together, but inside you feel the cracks forming. If you ignore these signs long enough, your heart grows weary. You start feeling resentment toward the very people you're trying to help, not because you don't love them, but because you've been pouring from an empty cup. And you can only run on empty for so long before something inside you begins to shut down. When kindness crosses the line into self-sacrifice without purpose, it becomes harmful, not just to you, but even to those around you, because you can't offer genuine love when your own spirit is exhausted. You can't give joy when your heart is drained. You can't guide others wisely when your own path feels dark. Healthy kindness requires honesty. It requires acknowledging your limits and understanding that saying no does not make you unkind. It simply means you are respecting the life God entrusted to you. You are acknowledging that your soul matters too. When you protect your energy, your clarity returns, your heart becomes lighter, your kindness becomes real again, rooted in truth, not pressure. And from that place, you can give in a way that strengthens you instead of breaking you. There's a truth many people learn the hard way. Not everyone deserves the kind of heart you carry. Some people do not value gentleness because they have never learned to honor it. They see your patience as an invitation to take more. They see your compassion as something they are entitled to. And the more you give, the more they expect. This is where the dark side of kindness becomes clearer, when people begin to treat your generosity like a resource they can drain without consequence. It's not that they're always malicious. Sometimes they're simply accustomed to receiving without giving. They've learned that you will always say yes, always show up, always forgive, always give another chance. And the cycle continues until you finally realize you're being depleted by people who were never willing to pour anything back into you. Kindness without boundaries turns into a breeding ground for unhealthy relationships. It attracts those who seek comfort but never growth, those who want help but never responsibility, those who enjoy the benefits of your presence but don't appreciate the sacrifices behind it. When you continue giving to people who never reflect it back, you start internalizing a dangerous message that your worth is tied to how much you can do for others. You start believing that if you stop giving, you'll stop mattering. That if you set a limit, you'll lose their approval. That if you protect your heart, you'll disappoint someone. This fear keeps many kind-hearted people trapped in cycles of emotional overextension, draining themselves to maintain connections that were never balanced to begin with. But here's the reality. A relationship that only survives because you keep giving isn't a relationship, it's a transaction disguised as connection. When others take advantage of your kindness, it chips away at your confidence. You start questioning whether being kind is worth it. You start wondering if something is wrong with you for always ending up hurt. But there is nothing wrong with your kindness. What's wrong is giving it to people who never deserved it in the first place. True kindness should never cost you your dignity, your peace, or your emotional well-being. It's not unkind to expect respect. It's not selfish to withdraw from those who misuse your generosity, and it's not cruel to protect your heart. Your kindness was never meant to be poured into every person who demands it, only into those who value it. When you recognize this, you stop trying to fix people who enjoy breaking you. You stop allowing others to treat your heart like a doormat. You start giving from wisdom, not fear. And you finally see that protecting your kindness is not hardness, it's maturity. There comes a moment when you must confront one of the hardest truths of life. Being kind does not mean being available to everyone. Many people assume that kindness requires you to always be understanding, always be patient, always be willing to give one more chance. But there is a hidden cost when kindness is poured out without discernment. It begins to shape a version of you that exists only to make others comfortable. You start shrinking your voice so others won't feel challenged. You silence your needs so others won't feel burdened. You say yes even when your soul is whispering no. And slowly, without noticing, you become a shadow of who you're meant to be, not because you lack strength, but because your kindness has been stretched beyond its healthy limits. But real kindness, authentic, powerful kindness requires strength, not weakness. It demands clarity, not confusion. It calls you to stand firm on truth, even when others might accuse you of being cold for doing so. True kindness recognizes that enabling harmful behavior is not kindness at all. It's participation in someone's brokenness. When you rescue people from the consequences of their choices, you keep them from growing. When you allow repeated disrespect, you teach others that dignity is optional. And when you continue giving to people who only take, you create relationships that drain the life out of your spirit. This is the dark edge many never see: the way kindness, when misapplied, can become a tool others use to shape you into who they want instead of who you truly are. Every time you let someone cross a boundary you never intended to bend, your heart absorbs the impact. That impact accumulates. It turns into quiet resentment, unspoken exhaustion, a sense of carrying burdens that were never yours. And eventually, you start questioning your own character. Am I too soft? Am I too forgiving? Why do people treat me this way? But the problem is not your kindness. The problem is the lack of boundaries protecting it. Kindness is a treasure, and treasures must be guarded. Not hidden, but protected. When you finally understand this, everything shifts. You learn to give without losing yourself. You learn to serve without being used. You learn to love without accepting disrespect. You begin to pour your kindness into places where it can grow, not places where it is drained. And as you do, you discover that kindness with wisdom is not just a blessing to others. It becomes a shield for your soul, a strength that empowers you, and a light that shines without burning you out. Kindness is a gift, but it was never meant to be a burden you carry alone. When you finally see the difference between giving out of love and giving out of fear, you begin to understand your true strength. You realize your heart was never meant to be handed to those who misuse it. Your time was never meant to be spent on those who drain it. And your spirit was never meant to bend just to keep the wrong people comfortable. True kindness is not found in letting people walk over you. It's found in choosing where your love, your energy, and your compassion can actually grow. The moment you start protecting your kindness, everything in your life becomes clearer. You recognize who values you and who uses you. You step away from the people who only take, and you draw closer to the ones who honor the heart you carry. You stop apologizing for having boundaries. You stop feeling guilty for saying no, and you finally understand that kindness rooted in wisdom is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. You were not created to be worn down by people who refuse to change. You were created to shine with purpose, to love with clarity, and to walk with dignity. When you guard your kindness, you don't become hard, you become whole, you don't become cold, you become wise. And you don't become less loving, you become harder to break.